So thank you, everyone, and just want to welcome everyone today to the virtual NORR. I'm sure everybody is settled in their home environments. This is the first time I've actually worn a jacket. I know Jonathan, who's on the line, wears a jacket almost every day, but this is the first time that I've actually pulled my jacket up. So today is, in fact, the next NORR in the series that we had intended to have a month ago, at least. I do have to thank Knoll, Kevin Pack, and Molly for calling and saying, you know, we should go ahead with this and we should do it virtually. And thanks to them for reaching out and suggesting that we move forward with it. And I think, you know, given the fact that we're going to be in this sort of situation for some time to come, I think that it's appropriate to move forward and actually do the NORR in this way. So with that, good afternoon to everyone. I've only have a few slides, and Molly is going to turn my slides for me. So we've decided to move in this format. And for the architects that are in the audience, obviously the OAA points will be something that you should look for. And at the end of please fill out your forms, which you should have. Patricia Clark will be submitting those to the OAA. So the first image that I want to start off with is an image that appeared in 1961. And for those of you who are a little bit older, of my vintage, this appeared in Playboy magazine. But the important thing is that it really picks up the master series that we've selected of the design icons for Knoll. The name has a profound connection with some of the great architects, artists, and designers of the past and the present. And some of these people that you see in the images, you will recognize. Eero Saarinen is featured in the middle in the womb chair. And many of the other great artists are featured in this image. The story starts with the founder, Hans Knoll, next image, please, and his wife, Florence Knoll, who was the driving force of the iconic company from its start. Hans Knoll founded Knoll in 1938, and it's coincident that that's the same year that NORR was founded. Last year, in 2019, at the age of 101, the driving force of Florence Knoll passed away. The Barcelona, the womb chair, the Bertoia, Florence Knoll was instrumental in bringing these chairs, enduring symbols of modernism, into existence. But more importantly, she transformed the look and feel of the modern office. The image you're looking at right now is the Saarinen family. Seated in the front is L.L. Saarinen with his wife, and in behind is Eero Saarinen with his wife, and then Florence Knoll to the right, and Hans. Born in Saginaw, Michigan, an orphan at the age of 12, Florence attended Kingswood Academy of Girls, adjacent to Cranbrook Academy of the Arts. At Cranbrook, she studied under L.L. Saarinen and embraced his son, Eero. From there, she studied architecture at London's Architectural Association and then Illinois Institute of Technology. Florence's friends and educators were people like Mies van der Rohe, Marcel Breuer, Walter Gropius, and Alto Alvar, would later all become collaborators at Knoll. Florence Knoll's central goal and accomplishment was to champion what she called total design, a way of approaching the design of interiors as holistic work, one that layers color, pattern, texture, and lighting. More than anyone else, Florence Knoll was responsible for providing the ability of the design community to innovate in interiors, and in particular, chair design through Knoll, which continues today. Molly Scott is with us today from KnollStudio, and she's here to present the Knoll story. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Molly.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I am Molly Scott, and I represent KnollStudio as well as some of our other ancillary brands. And I am thrilled to be here, if only virtually, to share a little bit about our founders and our history. So like we said at the beginning, if you have any questions or comments, just please add them into the bar and we will sort of chip away at them at the end. So good design is good business, an infamous Florence Knoll quote. I just thought this was perfect to start. And here we go. Florence Knoll Bassett was born Florence Schust in Saginaw, Michigan in 1917. When she was orphaned at age 12, her guardian thought she would thrive best in the atmosphere of a good girls' boarding school. Florence was allowed to make the selection, and once she saw Kingswood School in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, which was part of the 350-acre Cranbrook campus designed by Eliel Saarinen, she said she made an immediate decision that it was the right school for her. When she arrived, she met the head of their art department, who asked Florence what she would like to do there. Florence, aged 14, replied, "I would like to design a house." This actually is one of my personal favorite stories of Florence Knoll. The image you're seeing is an original model of the house that Florence wanted to design. This model is now in the Cranbrook archives. Florence thoroughly enjoyed driving, but had not yet gotten comfortable with reversing. So she was sure to add a front and a back to both the garage and the driveway. This way, she figured it would be the easiest way to drive in and drive back out. Interiors were also part of this project. Kingswood had a location that offered sculpture and weaving studios. This is where Florence furnished her house model and also developed a lifelong interest and passion in textiles, texture, and color. When Florence graduated from Kingswood, and this is her graduation photograph you're looking at, she was described in the yearbook as follows, quote, "Florence's ambition is to be an architect and an interior decorator someday. From all appearances, however, we think she should just stay home and be contented to be the most popular debutante of the season. Florence would decorate any party." End of quote. While at Kingswood, Florence's architectural ambitions attracted the attention of Eliel Saarinen. This is Eero Saarinen's father. The Saarinens unofficially adopted her into their family and would take her back and forth to Finland with them during the summers. Florence entered Cranbrook in September 1934, where she studied architecture under Eliel Saarinen. After graduating from Cranbrook, Florence studied at the Architectural Association in London, but returned to the United States in 1939 when the war threatened Europe. She apprenticed in the office of Bauhaus refugees like Walter Gropius, Marcel Breuer, and when Florence went back to Chicago, she studied with another Bauhaus master, Mies van der Rohe, and this school is now known as the Illinois Institute of Technology. She later said that Mies, who became a friend as well as a teacher, had a profound effect on her design approach and the clarification of her design. At the end of the school year, she moved to New York to work with the firm of Harrison and Abramovitz. I always have to do that one slowly. It was there that she met her future husband, Hans Knoll, who had come to the office to show off a chair that his furniture company was selling. In 1943, Florence went to work for Knoll, finding an immediate need there for space planning, services, and an overall design approach. The Knoll Planning Unit, as she called it, was established that same year to create totally designed interiors from the initial plan to the final selection and placement of accessories and objects. Florence and Hans married in 1946, and their firm became known as Knoll Associates. Her first Knoll showroom was this at 601 Madison Avenue, designed not long after she joined the firm. Working with Jens Rism, Florence Knoll knew that she wanted the firm's products to relate to each other in an attractive space, not just line up like those of every other firm and showroom. Knoll had little money and materials were in short supply due to the war, so Florence, by then affectionately known as Shoe, used cotton cord to create a dramatic, artful screen wall which both enclosed space and allowed the visitor to see through it. Behind the screen, furnishing fabrics were displayed on panels like an abstract composition of colored squares. In 1947, she had established Knoll Textiles to provide, as she said, a source for quality fabrics compatible with contemporary interiors. From the beginning, she valued true colors, interesting textures, and serviceability. When the showroom moved to 575 Madison Ave in 1951, Florence Knoll was faced with a great challenge. The imposing glass office building had very low ceilings inside, with misplaced columns and walls that departed from the plumb line. The showroom space itself was a poorly proportioned narrow oblong with windows that faced asphalt and concrete. So she ignored the ceiling and divided the interior with a black metal frame from which she hung colored panels that made the low ceiling seem higher. And that established the dominant verticals and horizontals as well as the color accents of the showroom. She also covered the window view with translucent panels that produced a clear white light. In the Chicago showroom in 1953, Florence had the opposite problem of Madison Avenue. Working in a windowless space with a high ceiling full of ductwork in the merchandise mart, she simply erased the problems by painting the entire showroom black and spotlighting the furniture and objects that she wanted to show. She also put in an oak floor to warm it up. By comparison, the San Francisco showroom space was nicer to work with. It was an old wooden factory building fitted with a timbered ceiling that provided a handsome texture and thick floor-to-ceiling columns. She painted the walls and ceiling white, except for the colored panels in large squares that divided interiors both vertically and horizontally. She also made a balcony to create more space above, and on the balcony, she used a planter box instead of a railing and has since said she would probably never get away with that today. The balcony was connected by elegant, solid walnut steps. The Los Angeles showroom was a long, narrow, glass-fronted storefront. Making a virtue of necessity, Florence Knoll thought the open, visible interior would be good advertising for Knoll. So that she could create interest in the ceiling and its three arches, she divided the space with screen walls and panels. This allowed passerby to see the whole space at once. The European showrooms presented their own problems. In Milan, the Knoll showroom occupied an old palazzo that had been, as someone put it, negatively remodeled and furnished with a long line of structural columns. To distract from the columns, Florence created a butterfly ceiling that reshaped the space and that also helped with the ceiling height. Using her now trademark colored panels, she also asked the sculptor Harry Bertoia, who was now part of the Knoll team, to create a work for the entrance wall, which you'll see there in front of the yellow panel. On the other side of the space, as she had done previously in New York, fabrics were displayed on panels and arranged like another work of modern art. In designing these showrooms, Florence also redefined the executive office. Traditionally, these spaces included a desk that was shaped like an oblong box with a work table behind. This arrangement took up quite a bit of space, so she reversed this plan as the diagram shows, creating desks that looked like tables and came in different shapes: round, oval, and boat. These tables could also be comfortably used for conferences. The Knoll table desk became the industry standard, and Florence Knoll invented it. Her most important executive office was the one she designed for Hans Knoll. It was small, only 12 by 12 feet, but felt generous. Credenza behind provided ample concealed storage, freeing the plan and allowing the office to double as a conference room. The office became a sales tool for Knoll because it made their clients realize that space was important and that a working office could also be usable and attractive. Florence developed her concept of the executive office in a series of now famous corporate interiors. For Look magazine, she commissioned this beautiful screen wall made by Irwin Hauer of white open blocks that divided the space, but one could still see through it. It's almost like a screen. The office of Look's publisher, Gardner Cowles, led out to a nice little terrace, and Florence Knoll designed the space to take advantage of it. With meticulous attention to detail, she placed every interior object she selected for the office, from furniture to works of art, on her signature paste-up plan, representing textures with actual fabric and veneer samples, a system she invented and continued to use moving forward, and a system that is still used to this day. The idea was to give each client a complete visual of the finished interior. She showed fabrics, finishes, furniture, and accessories that were carefully coordinated to the scale and nature of the architectural space. The Rockefeller family office of 1946 in Rockefeller Center was one of Florence Knoll's earliest projects. She likes to say that she liked to start at the top. The furniture was custom made of fine woods and materials, but everything was kept low key. For his office, Nelson Rockefeller had one request, and that was to keep his existing inkwell because he liked the pen. The problem for Florence was that the inkwell was made of plastic, and that looked out of place. So she solved the problem by asking her good friend, Isamu Noguchi, to make a sculptured wood cover for it. Apparently, everybody was happy with the result. Nelson Rockefeller's L-shaped table was her first unconventionally shaped desk. By the time she redid Hans Knoll's office at 575 Madison Ave, seen here, the desk was oval, giving the space a more welcoming yet efficient look. And this continues to be a top seller for both home and executive offices to this day. Frank Stanton, president of CBS, had been a client of Florence Knoll Bassett since the early 1950s. When he asked Florence to design the executive offices of CBS's new office building on the West 52nd Street in 1960, she had to select and place every object in the building, including an important art collection. The building had been designed by Eero Saarinen and was known at the time as the Black Rock because of the dark granite columns that articulated the facade. Problematically, work had already begun on the interior when Florence was called in, and the office spaces were divided into modular squares with sides that were multiples of 5 feet. For Frank Stanton's 25 square foot office, Florence relieved the harsh straight lines of the space and created interest in the ceiling with black arches that concealed the air conditioning vents and also made a pattern in the ceiling that that related to the plan. Florence had an easier time at Connecticut General a decade earlier because she and the planning unit were responsible for the layout of the interiors and furniture of the entire complex from the very beginning, when the firm of Skidmore, Owings & Merrill started developing the architecture. Connecticut General President Forsar Wilde, whose office you are looking at, complete with the model of his boat, was given a modern table desk and furnishings that were in a stark contrast to the colonial revival fittings the firm had traditionally used in the previous years. The conference room at Connecticut General included an oval table that was comfortable and spacious for meetings. The space was divided with a fabric-wrapped panel that provided some acoustic protection. For the open office area, Florence borrowed from her showroom the system of metal uprights fitted with primary color panels as space dividers. The dividers connected to the ceilings, and they created office areas at Connecticut General that were divided but also open. This is the employee lounge at Connecticut General. However, we still get a sense of how Florence Knoll organized and divided space with her system of brightly colored panels. Again, something that we're still doing to this day. Meetings were held twice a month to discuss the project, which was led by Florence Knoll. Unlike other contemporary women designers, such as Rohe, there was never any question as to the role Florence played. Connecticut General urgently needed more space, and the move to the suburbs outside Hartford allowed for it. Completed in 1956, the Connecticut General campus was built on 280 acres in a rural setting on a lake with recreational areas and several buildings grouped around interior courtyards. The large conference room shown here overlooked the park. In 1955, while the Connecticut General project was still ongoing, Hans Knoll was killed in a tragic car accident. Florence then became president of Knoll, and it was known as Knoll Associates and as well as Knoll International. Through her work in Florida at the First National Bank of Miami, Florence Knoll met her second husband, banker Harry Hood Bassett, whom she married in 1958. In addition to her corporate work, Knoll completed projects for residences, universities, hospitals, hotels, and other institutions, and she also designed several exhibitions. Included among the latter were two rooms she created for the 1949 landmark Exhibition for Modern Living, which was held in Detroit. The exhibition catalog quotes Florence Knoll's contention that good modern furniture must be practical, durable, inexpensive, and it lists the names of designers whose work Mrs. Knoll used in the display. Among them were Saarinen, Noguchi, Bonnet, and Kirchhoff. In the combination living dining room, according to the catalog, Florence treated function and beauty as a single entity. From its wood block floor to the washable plastic, jute, leather, and sailcloth upholstery of individual pieces, the room was designed to withstand the daily impact of heavy use. The fireplace was intended to be used out of season as a shelf for sitting plants, objects, and perhaps television. Trained by Eliel Saarinen, Mies van der Rohe, Walter Gropius, Marcel Breuer, and Wallace K. Harrison, and friend of Cranbrook colleague Eero Saarinen, Harry Bertoia, Ralph Rapson, and others, Florence put these and other leading contemporary artists and designers to work for Knoll. This is a 1945 advertisement designed by Alvin Lustig for Ralph Rapson's armchair collection. Her policy of crediting designers by name and paying them royalties laid the foundation for the strong working relationships upon which the commercial success of Knoll Associates was built. Florence Knoll's pool of top designers, many of whom were personal friends, included Isamu Noguchi, Alexander Calder, and very importantly, the Swiss graphic designer Herbert Matter. Matter had immigrated to the United States in 1936 and was a pioneer in the use of photography for advertising. Matter gave the Knoll firm its visual identity in all its printed materials, from stationery and catalogs to billboards. This advertisement by Herbert Matter for Knoll Textiles shows not only Matter's cleverness in combining the typography of his Knoll K, which you saw earlier in the showroom entrances, with this beautiful close-up photography, but also Florence Knoll's love and promotion of fabric. Florence has never taken much credit for her own furniture designs, though. She has described her furniture as fillers around the star pieces and sculptural pieces of artists and designers who worked for Knoll. However, another invention of Florence Knoll's was the use of parallel bars, T-bars, and crossbars as supports for tables, desks, and seating, as shown here. This system was introduced in 1956 and was first used in the offices of Connecticut General in conjunction with the building's contemporary glass and steel architecture. Got a few images. The image on the left is the Florence Knoll hairpin table, and this was something that Florence had originally designed well over 50 years ago, and we had stopped production. And in honor of Florence's 100th birthday, we went into the archives and brought certain pieces back into production, and the hairpin side table was one of them. Here you're seeing the Florence Knoll sofa and settee, as well as the coffee table, more tables, and her infamous table desk. I will mention this can now be done with the way times are with integrated electrical. We would just put it down the center column. The clean, spare geometry of Florence Knoll's designs owe something to the furniture of her teacher, Mies van der Rohe. Knoll produced Mies's famous Barcelona chair along with other pieces, having promised that the firm would use only the best materials and highest quality of manufacture. Florence and the planning unit consistently experimented with modern materials and new forms. Among them was this bentwood chair developed by Don Petit, part of a larger collection of chairs by him. Petit had pointed out that earlier bentwood pieces, which were round in section, were wasteful of wood. So Knoll developed this handsome square section series that was both comfortable and popular. Richard Schultz designed the wooden pedal table series, treated both for indoor and outdoor use. He designed the table in 1960 to accompany chairs that Harry Bertoia had designed for Knoll. Since then, Schultz has described Knoll as both a furniture and interior design company, where he was given the invaluable experience of designing for actual use. He recalled, quote, "You had to do everything yourself. You designed the furniture, you invented the way to make it, you designed the jigs and the tooling, and for a little while you were in charge of production until it got going and the various foremen and supervisors took over. Then you went on to something else. It was a fabulous education," he said, "because it meant that what you designed had to be producible." Florence knew Harry Bertoia from Cranbrook as well, when they overlapped during the 1937 school year. Bertoia was hired by Knoll as both a sculptor and given a studio by the Knoll factory in East Greenville, where he had access to the firm's machinery. He could do whatever he wanted, sculpture, furniture, and he did both. He made sculptures for the showrooms, as we have seen, and he developed the now famous line of wire mesh furniture formed into seating shelves set into metal stands. The wire chairs have always been sold with removable seat pads and covers, but were also sculptures in their own right. Eero Saarinen and Florence Knoll were interested in developing new ideas. Building upon earlier experiments that Saarinen had conducted with Charles Eames, Knoll and Saarinen wanted to try to make a sculptural plastic chair. A plastic base they found, however, would not be strong enough to support the weight, so they decided to make this part of the chair aluminum. They couldn't find a manufacturer that could form the plastic part of the seat. They were, however, happy to discover a ship hull builder in New Jersey who was willing to try. They had lots of problems and lots of failures, but they finally got a chair that would work. In 2008, the Tulip Collection celebrated its 50th anniversary, and in honor of this milestone, Knoll added a special platinum finish. Just as a side note for everybody, the platinum finish was discontinued and has since been replaced with a matte gray. The chairs designed by Bertoia and Saarinen made a wonderful subject for Herbert Matter, which meant fabulous new ads for Knoll. I love all of these. I can never pick my favorite. However, Matter's most famous ad, he had a favorite, or the audience did, was the chimney sweep sitting in a bright red and still very clean Saarinen broom chair, which you see here in the center, top center. Perhaps implying something about the soil-repellent nature of Knoll upholsteries, we think. Actually, according to legend, this is one of the few ads that Florence didn't like because she thought it was undignified. In 1959, Florence Knoll sold Knoll to Art Metal. She retired as president of the company the following year while continuing to work as a consultant and serving as the firm's design director. In 1965, she resigned from Knoll entirely after completing the interior design of the CBS offices. However, in 1972, a large exhibition of Knoll products was held in Paris, and Florence attended the opening as an honored guest, accompanied by the French Minister of Culture. The exhibition, a retrospective of the firm's work, was designed by Massimo and Leila Vignelli. Visitors climbed the grand staircase off the Rue de Rivoli and entered the exhibition through the N of the oversized three-dimensional letters that spelled Knoll. So it would go right through the center of the N to walk in. Florence Knoll, with Yves Vidal, who was the president of Knoll International at the time, were both there. The Vignellis created plastic cubes on casters to display the work of each of Knoll's designers. So in the previous slide, that's what you're seeing there, and more there. In spring 2004, Mrs. Florence Knoll Bassett began to work on an exhibition at the Philadelphia Museum of Art that opened the following November. This was called Florence Knoll Bassett, Defining Modern. The curators asked Mrs. Bassett to be her own curator and to create an exhibition and installation that would represent her design work. Shortly thereafter, both Knoll and the Philadelphia Museum of Art received a list of exhibition furniture illustrated with original drawings, which was needed first in order to allow adequate time for delivery, as well as manufacture of out-of-production models like the parallel bars, lounge chairs, and coffee tables. The museum had earlier sent Mrs. Knoll a plan of the design gallery, an awkward small space of 330 square feet. In return, according to her traditional paste-up practice, Mrs. Bassett produced her installation design furnished with samples of fabric and veneer. She said she had started this presentation method with a student at the Architectural Association in London and developed it when at the planning unit at Knoll. Building a cardboard model fitted with scale renderings of the gallery's contents, she first resolved the problem of the high, narrow proportions of the space, broken by 3 doors and a window. Florence defined each of the 3 principal gallery walls with colored panels on which she hung photos, blow-ups of her celebrated interiors, thereby drawing attention away from the ceiling again. The blow-ups provide a setting for the furniture displayed in front of them and illustrate the original context of the pieces. She also chose to display diagrams and an actual sample of the crossbar leg she invented to support her chairs and tables. She also showed her diagram of the conference table desk, which doubled as an abstract composition in black and white. That you'll see it along the left far back. As in all of her work, Florence Knoll knew exactly what she wanted and how to get it from the very beginning of the project. She took endless pains to ensure that the execution lived up to her concept, whether this meant visiting the printing firm where the photo blow-ups were being produced outside of New York or making a special visit to Philadelphia to check the colors that she had selected in the light of the gallery. Clear and concise in both message and appearance, the exhibition demonstrates how elegantly Florence Knoll defined modern and how she continues to define the Knoll design commitment to workplace furnishings today. To wrap up, as an architect, interior space planner, and furniture designer, the commitment Florence Knoll made to design excellence in everything resonates clearly. And that wraps that up.
Thank you, Molly. I think that was quite an incredible story. It's most of us that are on the line and have seen these chairs. We've seen them over and over again, not only in 60s buildings, but we continue to see them in modern day buildings, and they're still as fresh today as they ever were. The womb chair seems to you can open any magazine in the world, any architectural magazine in the world, and the womb chair, whether it's in red or other colors, seems to appear almost everywhere. And it's you know, we really have to look back at really as you've described in the entire story, to Florence Knoll and her vision and her drive. And without her, I'm sure you'll agree that none of this would have ever happened. So thank you for the insightful story and the complete story, really, of Knoll and what Knoll is today and what it continues to be. So thank you very much.
It continues to be. Thank you. I will say with regard to the womb chair, that was something that Eero Saarinen had gone to Florence, or sorry, reverse. Florence had gone to Saarinen and said, I really would love for you to design and create a chair that would feel like sitting in a basket of pillows. And so that's where the womb chair came from. And they did it. And yes, it continues to be used in residential, commercial, hospitality settings throughout the world.
And it's a very interesting chair. I mean, there is an image. It wasn't in the slideshow, but there is an image with Saarinen's, Eero Saarinen's wife sitting in the chair and Eero sitting on the rest, the side rest of the chair. And so it's not just the chair; it's more than a chair.
Yep. And he had done actually, there was a rendering, and when we go into our archives for a variety of reasons, in order to keep things interesting to you guys and clients and users, we want to bring you new product, and whether that includes and involves new textiles, new leathers, new finishes, it also a lot of the time means us going back to our archives and bringing pieces either back into production or into production. And an example of that would be the womb settee. And that was something that Saarinen had designed, but he could not make it. Knoll could not make it back then. It just structurally wasn't safe at the time to be used for commercial, let alone residential. So that was something that sat in the archives. And then as time and decades pass and manufacturing and technology advances, now we were able to add it to the standard collection. So you'll see a lot of that happening, which is exciting.
We're going to do a session on Eero Saarinen, which talks about Cranbrook, and Cranbrook. All of this really started with Cranbrook, and you know where she really grew up, so to speak, and obviously it was a huge influence in Cranbrook, and Cranbrook was certainly about architecture, but it was also about the arts. I mean, Bertoia, who was not an architect, I mean, he was an artist. All of this really came together at Cranbrook. So most of us think about going to whether it's University of Toronto or Waterloo or going to architecture schools, but she grew up in an era where it was about art. It was about more than just learning about one thing, and obviously bringing in the Bauhaus and learning under the greats, and not just one, not just learning under Mies van der Rohe, but learning under Marcel Breuer and Alto Alvar and the other people that really touched her. Must have been an incredible education, which she herself had. Obviously, we all wish that we were part of that, and obviously we're not.
Yep. Amazing times.
Why don't we open it up to the questions that hopefully people have been sending in?
Hi, it's Samantha here. Not necessarily a question, but just to Silvio and Molly's point, everyone on the line, these pieces really are great statement pieces to incorporate with your clients. And again, they're commercial grade, so you have to think that they're durable, they're long lasting, and they're a timeless piece to present to your clients and make that statement piece that's in whatever space that you would need. So just remember that. And when we're available to potentially go out and have a showroom tour again, whenever that's possible. I really do encourage everyone to accept that invite, because Knoll really does have a lot of great products on display and a lot of their classic pieces as well. So next time that is arranged and we're allowed to go out and do that, I would really encourage everyone to join in.
Yeah, I'd like to add something. When I was when we were putting this together and speaking to Molly, Knoll has an incredible timeline site, which actually we had hoped to actually try to show it, but it's impossible to show it on Teams, and I think it was going to be impossible to actually show it in the office as well. But I would encourage.
We tried.
We tried. But I would encourage you to go on their site. The timeline that they have is actually incredibly well done. But it starts at the beginning and it goes all the way through, and you can actually see the progression and each of the architects, artists, and designers on each of the pieces. But what I found incredible about it is that that history and that collaboration that was started by Florence Knoll, even though she left sometime in the 60s, continued. It didn't, I mean, that whole formula and the collaboration with the designers continues today. And it's something that Knoll is very well known for. I just don't understand why they didn't come in knocking on my door or any of the other people at NORR, but that's fine. That may happen at some point.
It is amazing with the collaboration. Yeah, sorry.
It's really great to see, and I mean, Frank Gehry and people that like that we think about. I mean, whether you like what Frank Gehry did or not doesn't really matter. But they really go out and they spend an incredible amount of time. And if you've ever tried to design furniture, it's difficult. It is incredibly difficult. And then going through prototypes. I mean, prototyping is labor intensive, and there are the failures, and you keep working and working and working, and to try to solve the issues and solve the problems. And finally, you get to a design that actually works. So the amount of investment that goes into it is quite incredible. So, the Barcelona, I'm not sure how much time was invested in the Barcelona, but look at the longevity of the Barcelona. I mean, it's still built today, and it's still a timeless, as was said earlier, it's still a timeless piece that shows up in, some of the great architecture of today.
And one of the things, sort of piggybacking on all of this, is sustainability is across the board, especially in our current global state, is just so important. And of course that includes the manufacturing, the delivery, all of the logistics. But with these pieces and the classics, the sustainability also applies to the fact that these pieces are kept for a very long time and are not, hopefully not, discarded. They are either auctioned off, and sometimes auctioned off for higher than their initial price, or they're handed down and from family to family or generation to generation. So there's a different kind of spin on the sustainability from that point, where it's not, the term fast fashion, but in this sense, fast furniture. And that is just, I think, more important than ever, in my opinion.
Well, I certainly think it was a very, it was a great presentation. There was a lot of information. I think, Florence Knoll is somebody that, deserves the recognition, deserves the attention. She's one of the very few people that, was able to develop a company, certainly in that time, and with that attention to architects and designers, that has withstood the test of time, and it continues today, and as I said earlier, continues not only with new designs and to be, a leading company in this industry, but we continue to see the designs that were there originally come back and are still designs that are, treated as designs of today. So with that, I want to thank Molly Scott for spending the time to do this and to be with us this afternoon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
I know Kevin and I will be eager to get you guys over to the showroom once we have our, return to work process all set up. And even if it means following arrows, I'm not sure what it looks like, but we will definitely, we will definitely love to have any and all of you come on over when we are able.
Thank you. Thanks for everyone that joined us today. And this was the part of the Master Series. The next Master Series is going to be Arrow Saarinen, and I'll be doing that. We'll let you know when that date will be in the near future. Thanks again for everyone joining in. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.